Update 7 a.m. on 18/3. England expects 55,000 people infected with COVID-19. EU banned entry. Indonesia urged people to pray. The COVID-19 epidemic spread throughout Europe as Montenegro, the last country of the region, announced the first 2 cases of the disease, while the epidemic situation in the rest of the continent was happening day by day. More complicated. As of 9 a.m. 17/3 local time, 4 p.m. the same time in Vietnam, the British Ministry of Health announces the number of new cases of new strain of coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 in Fog country in the past 24 hours. 407 increased from 1,543 to 1,950, equivalent to 26%, of which 56 deaths and 50,442 in the UK were tested. Government advisor Patrick Vallance said there was a basis to estimate that about 55,000 people could be infected with SARS-CoV-2, with an estimated death rate of 1 in 1,000. The UK is now being criticized as being too light-handed when dealing with an outbreak, although the government on March 16 set out a series of strong measures to prevent the spread of the disease. The current UK government's approach is to reduce the pressure on the currently overloaded public health system, slowing down the peak of the epidemic. Mr. Vallance emphasized that if the removal of tough measures such as restricting public contact, the virus will return. According to scientists at Imperial University, London, measures to limit contact in society and community can be applied lasted as long as 18 months. The British government on the same day confirmed that the second round of trade talks between the country and the European Union (EU) in the post-Brexit period will not take place as scheduled on March 18 due to COVID-19. But the hope is divided. Share London's draft agreement with Brussels in the near future. A UK government spokeswoman said both sides were committed to finding alternatives to maintaining talks and attempting to reach a bilateral free trade agreement (FTA). British officials discussed plans to host an online conference after direct talks in London this week were cancelled. Italy is still the largest outbreak of COVID-19 outside China when in the past 24 hours there were 345 more deaths bringing the total number of deaths in this southern European country to 2,503 people. Notice of the Italian Civil Protection Agency said that as of 6 p.m. on March 17 local time, 24 hours in Vietnam time, there have been an additional 3,526 cases of SARS-CoV-2 infection, increasing the total number of cases infected into 31,506 cases. In particular, the number of recovered cases is 2,941 people, an increase of 192 cases compared to the previous day. Of the total number of currently infected cases, 11,108 are isolated and 2,060 have to be actively treated. Lombardy epidemic zone recorded 1,571 new cases of SARS-CoV-2, bringing the total number of cases to 16,220 people. The total deaths of the region are 1,640 cases, an increase of 220 cases. The Swiss Federal Council executive branch recommended that the people of the country stay home to prevent the epidemic in the context of the COVID-19 epidemic raging with more than 2,600 people infected with SARS-CoV-2 and 19 deaths. Exceptions are those who must go to work or cannot work at home, who have to see a doctor or get medicine at a pharmacy, who are helping people who need help or who need food or other essential household items. Swiss health officials say the rate of increase in SARS-CoV-2 cases is so fast that they find it difficult to provide updated data. On March 17, after an online meeting with the European Union (EU) leaders, German Chancellor Angela Merkel announced that the EU would impose a 30-day ban on entry except for citizens of the association's countries, European Free Trade (EFTA), and Britain. The German leader announced that the order will take effect in 30 days and Berlin will immediately enforce the ban on entry, with some exceptions, such as the case where workers cross the border. All EU countries will enforce this ban. Citizens and their relatives in EU countries are allowed to travel through Germany, and this also applies to citizens from England, Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway and Switzerland. In addition to the ban, at EU conferences, EU leaders also discussed the common war against serious economic consequences caused by the pandemic, in which countries agreed to maintain circulation commodity flows. At the same time, the COVID-19 pandemic will cause very catastrophic consequences for the economy. Chancellor Merkel also emphasized that the EU is working together to bring back citizens trapped in non-EU countries. Earlier, German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas announced that thousands of Germans were trapped in many contexts of a border closure. Many airlines cancelled flights and Berlin will make every effort to bring these citizens go home. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) announced the record of 4,375 cases positive for SARS-CoV-2, an increase of 739 cases compared to previous statistics. The number of deaths due to COVID-19 in the country is now 75. In the face of the complicated disease outbreak, the U.S. National Guard office said on the same day, about 1,560 National Guard members were deployed in 22 states to assist in dealing with SARS-CoV-2, including most in New York State. Russia's COVID-19 Prevention Steering Committee said that on March 17, SARS-CoV-2 cases were recorded in 15 provinces. The number of patients infected with SARS-CoV-2 virus in Russia is currently 114, of which only 10 have been infected without going abroad. To date, 5 patients have recovered, including 2 Chinese citizens, 2 Russian citizens and 1 Italian citizen. The COVID-19 Pandemic Prevention Committee also denied earlier reports that Moscow would soon be frozen, saying conditions for such measures would be of significant increase. The number of infected people as of March 20th. The strict isolation scenario adopted by Russia includes the closure of bars, cafes and restaurants, and the transfer of public administrative centers and public service centers to online services for business employees. Work at home. Strict quarantine plans can begin implementation in the capital as early as March 20th. There are 53 cases of SARS-CoV-2 infection in Moscow. In many cases, people may stop taking public transportation, including the subway. Egypt Ministry of Health announced on March 17 the country continued to record 30 more cases of SARS-CoV-2 and 2 deaths, bringing the total to 196 and 6 deaths. The Ministry of Industry and Trade of Egypt has decided to ban the export of disease prevention equipment such as masks and disinfection materials within the next 3 months, to ensure the supply of these products. Earlier, Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli said all hotels and tourist attractions in the country would be disinfected within the next 2 weeks. On March 17, North Sulawesi Governor Ali Dondokambi called on the local people to pray individually or in small groups at their homes or offices every Tuesday to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Translation: Ali suggested that people mark prayer times by ringing at church bells, playing drums, or playing any other instrument often used for religious activities. Earlier, speaking after the country had its first 2 cases of COVID-19, Indonesian Health Minister Terawan Agus Putranto once caused a stir when calling on people to pray to avoid SARS-CoV-2 infection. Important especially if we pray, if we are bewildered, our immune system will be weakened. By the end of the afternoon of March 17, Indonesia recorded 172 cases positive for SARS-CoV-2, of which 5 had died and 9 had recovered. The disease has spread to at least 8 34th provinces across the country.